In a world so reliant on mobility, it's hard to fathom what life was like before we all owned cars or even had a paved road system. Over the past 100 years, while so many details of how and why we travel have changed, the need for a centralized transportation authority remains as necessary as ever. 100 years ago, on Friday, March 5, 1915, the North Carolina General Assembly committed to investing in transportation across the state by founding the State Highway Commission. What followed was a century of steady improvements and breakthroughs that have increased the quality of life for all North Carolinians. Even in the early years, the Commission struggled with some of the same issues we deal with today. In order to provide funding for system improvements, North Carolina's first gas tax was introduced in 1921, set at 1 cent per gallon. In 1931, North Carolina stepped ahead of many of its regional neighbors and assumed ownership of all secondary roads.
Every county had its own little maintenance, and we did that until 1931, and the state in the Depression years took over all the county road maintenance that had previously been county maintained.
In 1934, our great ferry system on the coast began receiving funding from the state. Today, North Carolina operates the second highest number of ferries of any state. North Carolina was also the first state to declare bicycles as vehicles in 1939, and became the first state to form a dedicated bicycle and pedestrian division in the department's restructuring during the 1970s. As the post-World War II period merged into the computer age, North Carolina's interstate system blossomed. The North Carolina Department of Transportation of today was born in 1974, incorporating all 6 modes of transportation in one department.
Well, most of it was done by hand when I started, drafting, and all that's been automated.
Everything in this state's improved since the 1940s.
There are things going on in the 20 years I worked, well, right at 30 years, that were hard for me to imagine when I went to work. The interstate roads and some of the construction practices, the materials we use. And of course, one of the big things that's changed is the cost of doing business, the cost of roads.
Well, the first effort was Governor Bob Scott from 48, I believe, to 1951, 52. He paved, to get the farmer out of the mud, he paved 14,400 miles in 4 years.
From the state's first paved road in 1916 to Governor McCrory's 25-year vision, North Carolina's Department of Transportation has always striven to provide the state's citizens with the services they need.
There's no doubt that infrastructure is the backbone of the North Carolina economy. We must continue to invest to further expand opportunities and create more jobs.
From paving Tobacco Road to the multifaceted transportation system we have today, the North Carolina Department of Transportation has provided every opportunity possible to all North Carolinians, and we have a lot of work left to do. And we're doing that work right now through the governor's 25-year vision, the overhaul of how we distribute money through the strategic mobility formula, and the discussions we're having now on funding reform.
But behind all the technological improvements and milestones, one thing has remained constant: the spirit of hard work and state pride held by the NCDOT family.
The technology is good, but you got to realize it's still the people. You can talk about technology all you want to, but you got to have people that know what to do and how to do it.
It was not unusual for people to work 40 years, 45 years with DOT back then.
As NCDOT moves into the future, we look to new faces, new technologies, and new ideas.
From what I've seen over the years and from what I've seen recently, it is always about doing more with less and getting more efficient at our processes.
In North Carolina, we're growing so much, and as we grow, it's hard to maintain and sustain the transportation that we already have.
Technology and innovation is transforming at a rapid rate, and the department has to respond accordingly. We're a growing region, we're a diverse region, and so we have people that have desires for a lot of transportation choices, and we've got to be postured and ready to support those choices.
To me, the key thing is to be trustworthy in the public's eye. If the public believes us and trusts us to do what we say we're going to do, I think that funding issues would be a little bit easier to talk about.
With innovation, sound decision-making, and the continued partnership of all North Carolinians, the North Carolina Department of Transportation is poised for another 100 years to be proud of.